Salutations, kindred souls. Welcome back to another episode of Lux Martin Enlightenment. This is about the 45th take of this, so here we go, yeah? I hope that if you're watching this, it means you're curious to understand what my brand of enlightenment is. Not the kind that floats above life, but the kind you find right in the middle of it. Not because your life should look like mine, but in that witnessing my journey, you can become aware of, hone in on, enjoy your version of enlightenment. Today is going to be another twin flame episode concept, something that I've been very strongly present with in my life lately, and I'm very passionate about. So I'm going to do my best not to ramble and yet clearly articulate a topic that has moved me powerfully lately, and I hope that you get some resonance with this as well. We're going to call this episode Steadying the Wobble on the Twin Flame Journey. And this is more so directed to the Divine Feminines, but anyone can benefit from this. And I'm actually going to develop an episode in my upcoming course content about you can steady the wobble in your own life for your own journey, not for a relationship. However, in this context today, it is going to be about the twin flame relationship. So, what I would like to talk to you about that is also present in my life right now is the energetic wobble of the twin flame relationship and what a divine feminine does about it. So to define it simply, the energetic wobble in a twin flame relationship is the shaky moments or seasons of doubt, fear, contradiction, or boundary tension that test your belief in the connection. I have always felt, as well as been confirmed by other sources, other content, that it is the divine feminine's role to steady the wobble. I'd like to make a little distinction here in that it is not your job to eliminate the wobble. In my experience, not only has the wobble always been present, but it feels like it's kind of always going to be. We live a human experience with an ego and a nervous system and a body. I do believe that there is always going to be a bit of a wobble. And so to me, this conversation is about accepting the fact that it is there, it is ever present. How can we manage it? More particularly, how can the divine feminines become an anchor both to themselves and in the connection to thus steady that wobble, the energetic wobble, yeah? So the first point I want to talk about in this concept of the energetic wobble in the twin flame relationship is awareness and acceptance. There was a point in my journey where I had to accept that this wobble not only is a reality, but the steadying of it is part of my job. And that really pissed me off at first. I really got into my own pity party about the heaviness of that duty and of how difficult it was and how incapable I felt at the time, or at many times, of steadying, of succeeding at that role. So I want to reassure somebody today that if you are in a moment of feeling overburdened by this, feeling victimized by it, feeling like you need to have a little pity party about it, it's okay. It's probably going to happen. And when you're ready to move on from that and step into the phase of, okay, I accept that this is a reality in my life. I accept this as a part of the connection. I accept that as the feminine, there's something I can and should do about it. Let's move into that. That's a phase. That's an important concept to wrap yourself around first before trying to blast through the success of steadying the wobble, yeah? Because to me, it's a pretty freaking hard job. So I want to give you some encouragement in the fact that acceptance and awareness is the first aspect of the wobble. And then understanding that this awareness, when you zoom out far enough to understand that there are both macro phases and micro moments where energetic wobble happens between you and your counterpart in both big ways and everyday little moments, that is both powerful and terrifying, because your role in taking on anchoring that and smoothing that out helps you kind of have a wake-up call and realizing that everything you do can and will shape the trajectory of the connection, both in your own personal life as well as the counterpart connection. In my experience, yeah, that was a very daunting thing to realize, of like, every time I make a mistake, every time I collapse into fear, every time I give into an egoic thought choice, I've set us back. I've failed. I've, sent us around for another time around the merry-go-round. That was terrifying to me. It was so heavy, and it was saddening and maddening that I had the capability in my everyday now moments, as well as in the larger seasons of our togetherness and separation, to affect that. And so when you take a minute to sit with that and you realize that that's it's a pretty potent and powerful role to play, and that you wield quite a powerful force in the effect of that, you start to take it more seriously. It helps you climb out of the pity party, as well as decide that, wow, I really got to pull myself up by the bootstraps and empower both myself and this connection in my decision making. And so what I want you to appreciate is that though it can feel like both a burden and a gift, it is what you came down here to do. And it's okay that it's terrifying, and it's okay that it's frustrating and maddening and hard. It's okay, but it's what you came down here to do. And I'm here to tell somebody that if I can find the resolve time after time, breaking moment after breaking moment, to get back up and decide to do it again, you can too. So now we're going to move on to how the wobble both shows up, and both how steadying the wobble shows up in life. I am going to tell you that in my experience, it has not worked out so far to make a large, hard, boundary-like decision and stick with it and not have it be immensely heavy to where it causes me to hit a breaking point. What I'm realizing, especially lately, even in this very present time of this week, is that it happens in the tiny everyday moments. Choosing to believe instead of collapse into fear is kind of an overall arching concept that I struggle with on the daily, sometimes hour by hour, both in this season and in many other cycles of my healing journey and the twin flame relationship. And so in those many, many everyday awareness moments where you realize you're spiraling, you realize you're worrying, you realize you're anxious, you become aware of how many opportunities there are to choose belief, devotion in what you believe about this connection and about yourself, as well as because you are the other side of the coin of your twin flame connection. So both of you, those beliefs you have. And they show up as the little moments where you get to reassure yourself in the face of contradictions. The hundreds of times a day where you may have to tell yourself to let go, focus on your own life, focus on what's going well, focus on something that makes you smile, focus on something that gives you life, gives you momentum, gives you power, creative inspiration, yeah? Because at least in my experience, there are so many moments in a day where I have to stop myself from choosing fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, egoic choices, and turn back to belief, divinity, sovereignty, inspired creativity. For me, at least in my experience, it happens so frequently on a day-to-day basis that it's maddening and terrifying. Like sometimes I wonder if I'm just a little bit mad because of how many times a day this choice comes up in my life. So if anybody out there feels a little bit schizophrenic at the amount of times you realize that you have these little moments in your life where you have the decision to turn towards fear and collapse or belief and devotion, I'm there with you. So, but what I want to clarify is that in these many, many small moments, in these now by now moments that happen so frequently, not only in a day, but in your season, in a season of life, in a season of togetherness or separation along the counterpart journey, these micro decisions build the foundation of steadiness. It doesn't happen in a one-time all-out declaration. It just doesn't. Okay? It happens in your everyday moments, and you're going to have a lifetime full of them. Yeah? So it's okay to accept that. It's okay to take a deep breath and go, whew, here we go. A whole lifetime of that. Yeah? So now we're going to move into talking about the concepts of contradictions and challenges that the wobble is asking you to weed out. Yeah. So in these concepts, these 4 concepts that I want to bring up, you as the feminine are being asked to pull the weeds out of the garden of this connection in deciphering what is true and what is false in this belief system you hold about this connection and about the counterpart journey. The first one, which for me is the biggest and heaviest one, is ego versus soul pull. Yeah, I am not kidding when I say I literally feel like a lunatic sometimes about how often my mind swings back and forth from one side of the fence to the other about me, about my counterpart, about the connection. And so it is this constant ciphering and this disciplinary devotion to deciphering what is ego versus what is soul. There are times when it is easier than others. And right now I'm in a phase of life where it is incredibly heavy, incredibly. But as the feminine, you are being asked to create a very strong muscle of discernment of what is ego versus what is soul. Another concept you're being asked to weed out, sort out, is practicality versus inevitability. To me, in my life, this looks like the everyday understanding that right now I need to live my life as if I'm the main one in it, as if almost as if union wasn't a thing, as if a relationship with my counterpart wasn't a thing. Doing life for Lux right now is a train track that I really need to put energy and focus into. 1, because it's what's great for me, and 2, because it's what's required of my half of a steady connection. However, I am becoming more and more aware that these tracks are looking a little different between what is my life versus what is a life of union with a counterpart, because right now they look like 2 very different trajectories and they're sort of splitting off. And I believe that I'm being asked to hold the energetic space for both of those right now, in acceptance of the fact that both are okay, both are important, and at some point the tracks should merge. So maybe in your life, you're starting to realize that the practicality of how you need to do your life may look a little contradictory to what the inevitability of connection with your counterpart will look like in the future. That's okay. It doesn't have to look great right now. In my life, it's quite a discrepancy. Maybe in your life, you're not seeing how those tracks are going to come back and converge, but it's okay to hold space for both in this wobble. Another concept of contradiction that you may be asked to evaluate is upholding boundaries versus feeling guilty for holding them. That is something that is really strongly present in my life, both very strongly in the ways of how I feel the strong twinge of pain when I let myself down by not upholding a boundary versus the guilt I feel when somebody else doesn't like that I do hold up a boundary. Yeah, so there's all those tiny moments in a day when I remember, yep, Lux, you really do remember how bad that feels when you make that decision again. Or you really do remember how gross it feels to abandon yourself this way again. And sometimes you got to do it a few times to really strengthen your conviction. And wow, this really feels bad when I disrespect myself and let myself down by letting these boundaries collapse. So then you turn towards, I really need to uphold this boundary. However, there, for me, in my experience, there has also been this guilt, this twinge of discomfort and tension when someone or something else in your life responds differently to the boundary that you are standing firm in, whether that's a health choice, whether that's an intimate choice, a communications choice, a relations choice. All of these little things you do to create self-sovereignty and respect and self-worthiness that somebody goes, oh, well, you weren't doing that before. That I don't like that now. That why is this here now? It's okay to accept that somebody else isn't really going to like it, as well as you're going to feel a little twinge of something. You're going to feel some kind of way when the fence stands strong. Yeah? Not because it's a wall you need to put up, but it's because it's an energetic form of self-respect you need to uphold for yourself. And so that is an everyday wobble that you may experience in both the awareness you become of every time you abandon yourself by not upholding a boundary, and every time you or the world around you feel some kind of way about when you do hold up the boundary. And lastly, a concept of contradiction that you may be asked to observe in the wobble is the roughness of trying to hold steady when things around you feel chaotic and uncertain. And to me in my life, that just kind of looks like the overall arching theme of the adjustments you're trying to make for yourself in your life, in steering yourself in a way that feels aligned for you, while noticing that things don't always fall into place so easily, so quickly, so smoothly, and accepting the fact that that's okay and you don't have to change your belief in the fact that you're headed towards calmer waters by making these changes in your life. So now we're going to move on into the concept of what happens as you steady the wobble. And for me, kind of the greatest inspiration in deciding to film this episode concept is in stopping to reflect on the many times this week where I made the tiny choices towards good choices of steadiness or avoiding bad choices of collapse, fear, and chaos. I took a moment to reflect on the many moments this week where I not only realized I was doing a great job making good choices, but I was avoiding making not so great ones. And that was really empowering. It gave me a sense of relief, of gratitude, of sovereignty, and of conviction towards devotion, to turn like strength in my devotion of what I believe this is, what I believe I'm doing here, and what I believe is going to happen in my pursuit of it. So I want to encourage you that slowly, though this concept of linear time is not everyone's favorite, certainly not Lux's, but slowly over time, moment by present moment, choice by choice, you are going to smooth out the choices and emotions that come with finding and realizing and navigating the energetic wobble. You will feel yourself creating momentum towards the inevitability of connection and union, both for yourself to your higher power, whatever that is for you, and connection towards your counterpart. And what you start to realize as you encompass and as you study this is that it's freaking beautiful, exhilarating, and maddening all at the same time when you realize the 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 capacity of your ability to do this. It's terrifying and beautiful that you almost have to sit back a moment and go, wow, like look at me doing the damn thing. Look at me doing this thing called life, doing this thing called anchoring, of steadying, of doing this really difficult role that I was called down here to do. And it's both a frustrating and beautiful and awe-inspiring experience to witness yourself doing that. And so I hope you take a moment to do that this week like I did, where I was like, wow, look at me doing it. I'm not even doing it well, but look at me realizing I'm doing it and I'm headed in the right direction. So I hope somebody needed to hear that today. Because in realizing that you're not just making good choices in the chaos, but you're avoiding the not so good ones, you're reinforcing the trust in yourself and the connection in your role in it. And that is so powerful and so beautiful. And it's worth taking a moment to celebrate. Yeah. So I took a moment for me to celebrate today. And I hope you do too, because that's powerful. It's powerful. And over time, I hope that this continues to strengthen your resolve and devotion to who you are as a person, a human, a feminine, a parent, all the things you are, as well as your role in the connection that you're pursuing. So in closing reflection, I want to put a bow on this, that studying the wobble is not a one-time act. It's an ongoing practice. It's like choosing the lifestyle of your regular workout routine of over time, the more wobble curls you do, the ongoing practice becomes easier in that you understand your devotion to the need to do it, as well as it should get easier to honor the daily rhythm of belief, boundaries, and choices. That is your role as the feminine. Belief, boundary, and choices. You have the power and the capability to choose steadfastly the trajectory of both your self-unity and counterpart unity. And in this steadiness, in this doing the rituals, the daily practice, doing the workout curls of steadying your wobble, you will cultivate the inevitability of connection, step by step, moment by moment. So yeah, that was this so powerful and beautiful concept that I had this awe-inspiring moment today about. So thank you for listening today. Keep seeking, keep softening, keep showing up. And remember, the light that you're seeking is the light you already are. And I hope that in sharing this experience together, you realize that you're already on your path of enlightenment, just like mine. And I hope mine is fun and helpful and entertaining to you. Take care.